Welcome to Coffee and Code, a monthly video podcast for Acumatica Developers by Acumatica Developers. So we're here with Ajoy Krishnamoorthy, our Executive Vice President, Head of Product and Strategy. And I asked Ajoy to join us today to talk a little bit about future technology and some of the direction that we're doing at Acumatica from a developer perspective. Joy, why don't you give us a little bit more background and provide just a little bit of scope to kind of guide the conversation, if you will.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Mark. Thanks for having me in this new Coffee and Code episode. Great to see that we have started this, and awesome to talk to all the MVPs on the call here as well. The developer community as a whole has come a long way, since we have started investing and working, and largely due to many of the folks on the call today. So really want to take this chance to thank them all for the work that you do in contributing to Acumatica, but also to our customers and partners and fellow developers. This is something that can never be overstated. So I really appreciate all that you do. So as a way of introduction, my name is Ajoy Krishnamoorthy. As Mark said, I'm the Executive Vice President for Products at Acumatica and the Chief Strategy Officer. So I look at product management as my primary responsibility across all the different core modules and the different industry editions. I've been here at Acumatica for a little over 6 years and started working on in the core platform, working with a lot of our vertical ISVs that are building solutions on top of Acumatica, and then help launch the construction edition, which is one of our newer industry editions, if you will. So for the conversation today, it's again a dialogue with participation from our MVPs, and we also have Stephen joining us, who's a partner technical manager. We've got a lot of experience and expertise in the platform. We also have Sergey Marinich joining us from Acumatica, along with the MVPs. So I expect this to be a good conversation, and we will talk about what we are doing in the platform, some of the work going on with our UI, machine learning and integrations, and so on. So with that, let me turn it over to one of you. I know we've got a set of questions that we want to go through in the discussion. So happy to take the first question.
I think, Ajoy, you mentioned the .NET Core and kind of the progression to taking the whole ERP platform to .NET Core. Can you just kind of tell us more about, the struggles or the challenges that you're facing today with all your existing clients on, previous versions of Acumatica?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a great place to start. I know it's a topic of interest to a lot of our developers and customers. One of the things, before I get specific into that, one of the things that we do, and our CTO Mike had talked about this in the developer conference, the virtual summit we had earlier this year. So I recommend to all the audience to go watch the session on demand. You get into some specifics. But for us, when you think about investment in .NET Core, it's just an example of what we do with our platform. We continue to invest. This is not a one-time thing where we put changes in and then we go away from it. This is an ongoing investment. Many of you MVPs that have been working with us for several years, you have noticed that, right? We are a technology company, offering ERP solution, and that we take that technology commitment and the platform commitment pretty seriously. So one of the big investments, we don't do changes or platform re-architecting to the extent of what we're doing with .NET Core, but that's necessary. This is based on the work that we have done the last decade or so, and based on the feedback that we've gotten from partners and customers, and where the technology stack is evolving. So one of the key initiatives we have got going is moving Acumatica, the overall architecture from ASP.NET and web forms into more of the .NET Core platform. It obviously gives us a lot of benefits around performance, some of the newer advantages that comes with going into this newer platform. We try to, from a platform perspective, from a developer perspective, there are going to be changes, right? Obviously, in terms of how you think about writing extensions and customizations and so on. But we want to minimize the I guess the migration, if you will, if that's the right word. You're not going to see this as a migration, but more move of the platform underneath and keep it very seamless to our customers. So that's what you want to think about from a platform perspective. If you're a customer using Acumatica, you don't have to, go through migration, for all practical purposes. It's no different than moving from a version to version from an Acumatica release standpoint, and you will inherently get the benefit of being on this new platform. The other area that I want to touch on while we're talking about this, it's not just about the core that we are moving over, but also the UI framework. So there's some work that's going on. We've been sharing this with with you all over the course of last year, and that's something that we're making some good progress in terms of getting into Node.js on the from a framework engine standpoint, an approach for view model declaration using TypeScript. This is something that Mike touched on and talked about in length in the developer summit. And then we have chosen a framework called Aurelia. You can find and learn more about it at aurelia.io as the front-end platform. So this is what we're going to standardize across, both from a web application standpoint as well as a mobile, for our mobile client. I think it gives us a lot of benefit in terms of how we render the pages. We're going to optimize that and have a great rendering experience in the browser. But it's not just about having this new UI framework. It's also usability enhancements. As part of this whole journey, and you will see this come in many releases. We've already done some of that in 21 R1. You'll see more happening in R2 and then in 2022 around the layout, around the workflow engine, around how we manage error notification and so on within the system, around filtering, the new grid layout that's going to come up in the future. So a lot of the stuff is not just about the new UI, but also the user experience. So let me just pass on that. I don't know, Steven, if you want to add anything to what I shared around .NET Core and UI, but good question to kick off this discussion.
I think it's just important to point out that .NET Core, the biggest difference between that and .NET Framework is there's no framework anymore, if you will. The ASPX, the Entity Framework, all of that stuff is in .NET Framework. Well, that's not what and .NET Core is also open standard now. It was contributed by Microsoft to the open standards bodies. So it's very much a portable, movable platform. So it runs on Macs, it runs on Linux, it runs on Windows. So more on that in the future as we talk about maybe containers and things like that. But it gives us a lot of platform flexibility going forward by being on a platform that actually is that mobile, is that transferable. It even runs on iOS. I don't know how well it does, but it's there. But then the other part of that is, well, the framework included ASP.NET. So as we were just talking about the UI changes, that's what we're leaving behind. To the degree we're leaving it behind, or we're going to take steps to walk away from it, I'm not sure. But that's basically what the framework embodied, was not only the Entity Framework or the Identity Framework, but it also had the ASP.NET in it as well. So if you like ASP.NET, going forward, you're not going to see much of it.
Yeah, but
you're see more JavaScript.
JavaScript has been around for a long, long time. I mean, I think we've all had our fair share of working with JavaScript. I actually started working on ASP and JavaScript back in the day. So it's now in a lot of innovation that's gone in, with the different JS libraries and the work that's gone into Node.js and TypeScript. It is the I guess the standard of the future. So getting to being comfortable with TypeScript, with the framework like Aurelia, especially as an Acumatica ecosystem developer, is a good investment.
Yeah.
Okay, good on that. Next question.
Hi, Ajoy. Well, I do have some questions regarding next technology. We've seen and you've shown some advancements on our testing regarding machine learning and natural language, and I'm curious about what are your ideas or your plans on the future of leveraging those technologies in the ERP in general?
Yeah, No, I mean, this is an area where I think, again, the industry as a whole is moving pretty fast, right? A lot of things have happened in the machine learning and AI space, and we've been kind of on the forefront, learning about it and taking advantage of it where it makes sense. I mean, as many of you have been around with us for a while, you've seen us work with the likes of Alexa, for example, right? This is the device from Amazon where you can give voice commands, and we were one of the first ERP company to have a business skill, right, where you can interact with Alexa and get data from Acumatica and also participate in a workflow. For us, the investment here is much broader. Obviously, natural language is a prime area that's gone through a lot of change in the industry. We are now getting to a point there's parity in terms of understanding of human voice and tone and so on. We think about this as another user input mechanism, right? And a lot of the querying capability, will naturally, go towards that type of behavior where you don't have to be cryptic, even though you're querying and trying to find some report on a dashboard. It's still not quite SQL script. You're still writing a cryptic term. How do we make it a lot more close to being the natural language, whether it's English or whatever the language of choice is? But I think in a broad set, though, one of the things that we've been looking at it from an Acumatica perspective is, what are the key business problems that we have where we can apply ML and AI to make that particular functionality come either improved or operate in a different efficiency level. There are a lot of mundane tasks in ERP, and we've talked about that in the past as well. So we started looking into a few categories of problems, like what can we do from a classification standpoint. So if you think about our investment there, we've done a lot of work understanding, obviously, with ML, data is king. We need to understand what the data is. So we started working on our, even our help documentation a couple of years back, where we started providing an index search result based on what the customer is querying. And then that naturally went into, more of a, document recognition as a bucket. And that's where we introduced a few different features that our customers are taking advantage of. We started off with the expense recognition, which is a common, pain point for a lot of our customers. Including me, I hate filing expense claims. And so anything we can do to improve that process is a good thing. And so with that expense recognition, you can snap a photo of a receipt and it automatically scans the image or understands what's in the receipt and creates an expense receipt in ERP in Acumatica. So that's a type of automation where it takes a task that something takes several hours to in a matter of minutes. Not only that, with that type of interaction, you're also avoiding human error. So from an accounting standpoint, they don't have to do so much time auditing all these expense claims and catching errors and so on. And then the natural progression from there is the work we've done with AP documents. We still have a lot of things to do there, but the AP document is a very powerful capability and saving a tons of time for a lot of our customers where you're getting AP document in multiple different forms, largely coming as an email attachment, rather than having to open it up and keying it in manually. Let's get this ML system understand the AP document and automatically create an AP bill that account clerk or whoever is responsible can review and follow through with the workflow. So we have enabled that through a couple of different mechanisms. You can either drop it into an Outlook folder or you can use the Outlook add-in, which is a kind of a pretty powerful capability from a productivity standpoint, or you can literally drag and drop a file into the application area where it will start recognizing the document. And we've also added new features since we launched the AP document functionality to be able to automatically identify and link to a PO, identify the inventory items, etc. I think the key advantages for us, Marco, I mean, it's a great question, and I think a lot of the MVPs have talked about this as well, is we're able to pick and choose the right service, that's applicable and that's relevant and as the strength for the service we're trying to offer, right? We are not an ML AI platform company, right? And our core competency is taking these services and applying for business problems and solve it so our application performs better for our customers. So we have the luxury of choosing the best service. We are not tied to one platform, whether it's Azure ML or AWS services or GCP or other companies that are innovating at a pretty fast pace, whether it's for cash flow projections or inventory replenishment. we can use the service that best fits the bill without being bogged down by the platform choice like a lot of our competitors. So that's, I think, giving us an edge. And then the other aspect that I'll talk about in terms of how we think about these capabilities is, ML and AI for a lot of users, they won't even know it's ML and AI. Like we all up on Amazon, when we go look for a particular pen, it says customer who looked at this also looked at these other things. I mean, that's machine learning. When you're watching a show on NetSuite, it say, hey, since you watched this sports show, you may be interested in this other show. I mean, that's machine learning. From a user perspective, they don't need to know that. They get the benefit of how the ML is starting to predict and present some useful information. That's one area where we're going to start making a lot of the functionality within Acumatica get better by using ML behind the scene. The other one is stuff that you would see a big difference. The example I gave you with expense and AP, it's a new workflow. Right, you're not doing the same thing where you're taking the expense receipt, manually keying it in. Instead, you're just tapping a picture and the receipt shows up in the ERP. That's a change in workflow for the user, but for the better, right? So where it's obvious to them that hey, this is a new technology that's being put out by Acumatica. There is still a lot more to do. We're getting started, to be honest, in this space. We have a dedicated team that's been working on it for the last couple of years. More to come on that in the coming releases, and we'll share some interesting updates at Summit as well later in July.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
You bet.
Good morning, Ajoy. We've really been enjoying a lot of the features that are rolling out with the mobile applications, such as being able to hand off from your PC over to your mobile device to take a picture to upload right in, without having to do a lot of going to the mobile app, logging in, trying to find your record, and then doing the app. That handoff is really sweet. With the updates coming down the line to .NET Core, does that change how we define our mobile app definitions, or does that open up any capabilities for future enhancements, capabilities? Can't think of the great word for that, but does that change what we are going to be able to do with the mobile app as we move forward?
Yeah, no, I mean, the feature that you're referring to, which is the ability to say, take a picture on mobile and continue the workflow there. Oh, I love it, right? Saved a lot of time. We don't have to, have a broken workflow. So that's something that's, very popular. And, at the end of the day, it's about getting things done in a faster fashion. Yes, there is change coming, right? The UI framework that we talked about, that's standardized across our, web application and the mobile application. In terms of the flexibility that we have provided, if you look at our mobile approach, it's not a separate app, right? For mobile, that we need to have a lagged release rhythm with our core application. The way we have done it is with the configuration where we have application capability that we release with our core ERP. And then, you as an administrator can define, or at your customer organization, define what features and functionality you want to expose within a mobile, right? And that type of flexibility is not going to go away. And I think that's our core strength, and we'll continue to carry that forward in this new platform. But a lot of things also is going to get simplified and standardized because we're going to use the same rendering type approach across both our web and mobile. But very good question, and we'll share more. I mean, I'm just scratching the surface on that because there's more work going on right now, and we will share a lot more guidelines on how we think about extensions to mobile, new capabilities that you want to add. I think this is going to open up opportunity for us to do a lot of the theming and customizations on our mobile application as well in a lot more easier way than what is possible today.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to that.
Good. Any last question before we wrap this up here?
Yeah, I got a question. There's been a lot of talk about low code, no code. Would you be able to elaborate on that, and what does that mean for us developers?
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, this is an area where I think there's definitely a lot of excitement and passion in the community. We believe in that. I think the more and more we can do with this, the low code, no code, enabling that experience is obviously a good thing for our customers as a whole, and particularly for our developers. One of the things that I always talk about that is in the context of reports. How many of you have heard the story of the reporting, oh my gosh, it's all done, and as soon as you add this one extra column, right, or one extra field, I'm done. And that never happens. It's like, there's always that one extra column or the field that you need in the report before the reporting is done. And part of the reason is, the users have to depend on developers to go make the change and have those data available. And we have come a long way in platform like in Acumatica. You've got ways to do some of those customizations even today, where a user can go in and create and get data out of the system. I remember working with a customer here in state of Washington. They are in home building space. And the controller, and she figured out how to do GI, and she's been writing queries based on what their organization needs are. But I think where we are going as an industry, and then Acumatica is definitely working closely on this with few platform, is like, how do we take that to the point where the customers can get data out of Acumatica easily and do some of these customizations. Think of a world where we can even have something like Excel formulas, right? The calculations that you do, right? I want to do a rolling calculation of whatever I see in my grid. Today I have to go probably ask a developer to create a user customization. Imagine you can actually use that type of language, a formula that everybody is familiar, have high familiarity with Excel, and bring them into Acumatica. So we're working on few projects like that. One of them is a new framework that's coming out of Microsoft called PowerFX. I don't know if you guys have caught up with that or not. So we've been working with them for the last several months on this one as an exploration, right? We want to understand what's possible with PowerFX. PowerFX is essentially their low code, no code programming language. Enables a lot of the Excel type calculations that I just talked about. So you will see, and I'll share more information in the coming weeks on that. Again, it's not, we're doing it purely from an evaluation standpoint. We want to understand, is that the platform that we can bring into Acumatica where we can enable that type of interaction for our customers, where they can go in and do those calculations, do sum of a table or a column values or an average or whatever calculations that they want to get. And we've all become very sophisticated with Excel. Why can't we have something like that? Have a formula bar that allows them to bring in some of those calculations within a system like Acumatica. So we are working on that. I would expect to have something to show in the next month or so as part of our evaluation. And I think that you all will like, and more importantly, our customers who are not developers and programmers would be able to take advantage of that.
Thank you.
Okay. Good discussions. I know there's a lot more we can talk. We wanted to keep this to a nice, short and sweet 20-minute of conversation. Happy to come back again in whenever the time presents and the next window opens up in Coffee and Code. Would love to share more and update on the progress we're making. But good discussion again. Keep I really appreciate all the work that you guys are doing as MVPs. Continue on that, and for everybody that's watching, absolutely take a look at the virtual developer conference sessions. If you're interested in some of the stuff that I talked about around .NET Core and the work that we're doing with the new UI, there's more information that's shared during the developer summit. So please, give it a watch. And if you have other questions or comments, please throw them into this video once it's published, and happy to follow up with another conversation. With that, thank you so much, and back to you, Mark.
Thanks, Ajoy. And to add to that, you can, we record a lot of the content, including this, and you can find all the developer conference sessions over the last 5 years on acumatica.com/devcon. So it's real simple to get to that content, and you can watch Mike C's presentation that talked about some of this technology. Again, I wanted to have a chance for you guys to ask questions and have Ajoy kind of flush some of this out. Also at Summit this year, if all goes well and we get everyone and I'm able to get some of the engineers from Russia to travel, we plan to have an advanced session talking more in detail around .NET Core, the UI, workflow, and other topics. So if you haven't thought about coming to Summit, because we really encourage developers to come to our Summit. It's not just about marketing and sales. We really have, a whole dedicated track around for developers. We have a hackathon. We have all this great developer stuff that you guys can attend and talk more amongst ourselves and get into the nitty gritty and detail of that. And that conference is great for developers as well, not just marketing and salespeople. So I encourage you to come to Summit this year, which we're holding in July. Again, thank you, Ajoy. I appreciate your time coming and addressing our developer community. I do plan to have other executives join on a quarterly basis. So Ajoy's the first among others that I hope to have join us, and we'll hopefully have more stimulating conversations and talk about various topics of interest for you. So again, thank you. And until next time, I bid you a farewell and have a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.